I've got this is my Halloween costume. If you're my age, you have either Anthony Hopkins or Ed Harris. And who wants to dress like Anthony Hopkins?
Well, I wore this hat for Halloween myself because I didn't have a costume this year. I thought, oh, well, I've got a cowboy hat. I'll put that on. And welcome. We are here for our Westworld episode 5, Contrapasso. Is that how you say it? I'm not very good. Okay, good. Contrapasso episode recap. And I was just telling the guys before we started, I'm here this week with Riley and Tom. And I was telling them, I really like this episode. This is probably one of my favorite, I thought the pilot was a good intro, but this is probably my favorite episode since, because I think 3 big things happened. I think you had the great scene with Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris finally meeting and finding out a bit more about their characters and a bit more about that maze. You've had, at the end, Tandy Newton's character wake up and say to the guy in the lab, it's time we had a talk. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more her being in control of things outside of the Westworld than I would have expected this soon. And then third, Dolores also, again, a lot of characters taking the bull by the horns maybe this episode and really sort of coming into their own. Dolores really starting to shoot people, not wanting to be the damsel anymore, and looks like making a real run at that center of the maze. And I think with 3 big things happening like that, with 3 characters, one with Ed Harris that I think we've been quite intrigued by for a while, and another 2 that we've had more center stage, it really, to me, is looking at, it's the kind of moments, is the kind of, keeping that momentum halfway through the season, that for things like the Screen Actors Guild Awards and the Golden Globes hopefully keeps it in the conversation on the radar. And we're looking even further down to the Emmys. You need good episodes, and you can't have just a flat sort of show that just had a good pilot to be able to deliver on Emmys. What do you think, Tom?
Well, it's funny, the Ed Harris Anthony Hopkins meeting. It was, to me, like that scene in Heat when Robert De Niro and Al Pacino finally get together. It's like, oh, finally. And just to see the two of them. That was very interesting because Dr. Ford really does not intrude on people's games. But he does kind of intrude on Ed Harris's game a bit by inserting himself into the conversation. One thing I kind of took away from that, that it seems that I just got this feeling the 2 of them have had a business relationship together. Mm-hmm. I think that these are not strangers, or Ed Harris is not a visitor run amok. These 2, I think, have a history, and I suspect Arnold is probably the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this Arnold character, I'm very intrigued to see what's happening with him. Well, let's start with talking about the Anthony Hopkins Ed Harris scene of the 3 things. Riley, what did you think of that scene, of those performances? What you took from that?
Well, I'll just say for the episode more generally, I preferred the last couple. I found this one a bit shapeless. I'm not really sure what the through line for the episode was. Cool. It's kind of just a whole bunch of different scenes that are the next chapters of all the various storylines that are going on. It's pretty common to see these episodes with serialized shows, but I just think later when we're looking at the Emmy ballot and then we're seeing this episode next to other episodes, we'll try to think what was that episode about? And I don't know, it has a few scenes here and there, but I'm not sure what the episode is overall.
I wonder if Riley, the pilot, I think, set up the board very well for the first half of the season. It introduced us to the characters. It sort of set things up really well. I feel like this episode has maybe set up us quite well for the back half of the season, where Dolores is now seems like Dolores and is it Maeve, Danny Newton's character?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep.
They have now taken on board an agency that I haven't seen before, and we're going to see where that what rabbit hole that sort of leads them down. And Ed Harris now has really been the gauntlet's sort of been thrown down to him to really make a run at this maze. And you got these three characters with these three from Ed Harris to the Man in Black to Dolores to Maeve, all now with a new not a new direction, but this sort of like we're more focused on where they're heading now than we were in episode 1. What do you think about that, Riley?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think things have been moving along. I would expect to see a lot more of Tandy Newton in the second half too, because we just found out that she's going lead for the Golden Globes, which is a surprising decision. Now they actually have nobody in supporting actress, so they've got Evan Rachel Wood and Tandy Newton in lead, and then Anthony Hopkins over on the male side.
Yeah, let's talk about let's talk about the Ed Harris Anthony Hopkins scene. Then I want us to break down: is that a good call for Tandy Newton against Evan Rachel Wood? And we'll talk about the strategy there of if that's good, having them both in the lead category, and if not, which one should sort of go down to supporting, because they've both had quite a bit to do this season. So Riley, if I was to ask you, because we had our first ever meeting of the Man in Black and Anthony Hopkins character, if one of them got nominated for an Emmy, which one of the two do you think it would be? If one of them got nominated for a Golden Globe, which one of the two would you think it'd be?
That's a tough one, because I feel like they're both beloved by the Golden Globes. I think Ed Harris has been nominated like 6 times or something, and they're in different categories, so I don't think either of them is going to have... Ed Harris would have the harder time just because he's also competing against comedies and miniseries and movies in that catch-all supporting category.
Yeah. Which one, Riley, impressed you the most of the two from the scene?
I really just love Ed Harris's voice. So anytime he's in a scene, then I'm immediately impressed. Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Tom, what do you think? The Ed Harris, Anthony Hopkins, who do you think has the best, maybe rather than just focusing on Globes, just best awards prospects on the back of that scene?
I would suspect that Hopkins brings a prestige factor to the Globes that sometimes I suspect the Globes may be a little hungry for. Getting him on the red carpet would certainly raise the stature bar a little bit for the Hollywood foreign press. And so I can't see them resisting it. I agree with Riley. I think Harris going supporting is going to be very difficult. They do love him. They really do. I'm thinking that he really needs a couple of more scenes, because he definitely has been underplaying a lot of this, so far. And that probably is not going to be necessarily the ticket to a red carpet appearance at the Globes. But I have the feeling that he wouldn't have taken on this role if there was not something juicy coming up. So I suspect both of them will. I can see Tandy Newton going lead only because, as Riley had mentioned, the difficulty of competing against television. That supporting category in the Globe is a hodgepodge. But unless she has something huge coming on, I think she might want to reconsider for Emmys and go supporting there, because she certainly has the scenes.
Yeah. It's like, I think, interesting, the Ed Harris, Anthony Hopkins thing. I think they've both got good chances for the Emmys and good chances for the Globes to get in their respective categories, especially the Globes. They like new people, they like new things, but they sort of like, they have the benefit, these guys, of being old, respected people that the Globes will like, but in something new and hot. So they can sort of have their something old and something new by nominating these guys. What do you guys think of that scene with Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris? What was the one thing that you took from that scene as the most interesting development? Because, that was probably, of all the things that happened, there was some level of ambiguity in what they were talking about as well. There's a lot of mystery to that conversation, even though it revealed quite a bit. Riley, what's the thing you took from that conversation?
I'm not sure. I think maybe that's why I keep sidestepping the issue. I think fun to see them finally meet. But it was all pretty vague, wasn't it? Like they're
It's
just
very vague.
Yeah, it was
just talking about things that might happen and things that maybe happened in the past. So
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was most interesting in the scene was actually nothing to do with Harris and Anthony Hopkins, but it was Teddy's reflexive Good Samaritan move when Ed Harris put down the knife on the table. Because, as I recall, there's an unwritten rule that non-robots have to step in if two guests are having to fight. And that kicked, I believe that I got that from an earlier episodes. And when Teddy immediately grabbed that knife so that they wouldn't use it against each other, that to me was like, oh yeah, that goes back to something I thought I heard before, but I'm not quite sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think like what's interesting is this idea, like they're talking about the maze, they're talking about like this Arnold from the past, like it seems like the Man in Black has more respect maybe for Arnold. Like he thinks Arnold has more answers than Anthony Hopkins. He's sort of like, oh great, yeah. If I wanted answers, I would have to speak to the guy that like died ages ago. So, so that's sort of interesting. And I'm interested to see. I'm always surprised that they don't touch base with each other for quite a while longer. Like if, it's not till the end of the season that we see them talk together again. And that'll be a good scene to watch over again and look for little things they say to each other as we see things unfold in the season. And I think it would be a good scene for them to submit for Emmys, because it'll help Hopkins, but it'll also help Harris and vice versa, because they're both in the same scene together. So if Harris gets nominated in supporting and Hopkins goes lead, it could be a scene that could be key in cementing victories for each of them. Yeah, and I think it works better as a supporting tape than a lead tape for both of them. Like it doesn't seem quite big enough or the scene quite flashy enough for a supporting tape, for a lead tape. But for a supporting actor, that's quite a nice scene at the end. So although a bit like the Peter Dinklage episode, you don't see much of Ed Harris until later.
That's
like
true.
That's sort of the first you see it. So you got to sit through a lot of non-Ed Harris to get to that scene. Didn't matter for Peter Dinklage the first year. He won for Game of Thrones. But then again, that scene was a monologue. It wasn't even, he didn't really even have to share it much with, it wasn't so anyway. So that's a pretty important conversation with things that hopefully this is a well-written show moving forward. We will be going back to that scene and the things it foreshadowed. Like we're yet to see how. Like I remember going back and watching Game of Thrones season 1 is so much better now than the first time I was watching it, because I see how they're setting things up and how they set things up that are foreshadowed later, and introducing characters and backstories and things in a really rich way that at the time I wasn't able to appreciate, because I didn't see what they were, where it was going with that. I was like, oh, just these boring scenes about old families. Great. But, I guess we're yet to see whether Westworld will have that same sort of ability to draw on scenes like this for future storytelling. Okay, let's talk the big Tandy Newton, Evan Rachel Wood, both in the lead category for the Globes. Do we think they should... Let's just start with, do we think they should both be in the lead category for the Globes, Riley?
I think you could argue that everybody in this cast is supporting. I understand why they would want to submit some people in lead so that not everybody is stealing everybody else's votes. But then, submitting more than one lead per sex seems like overkill, especially Tandy Newton hasn't actually been nominated by the Globes before. So we don't know if they're going to just find her wherever she submits herself.
Mm-hmm. Tom, what do you think?
I think it's right now it's strictly strategy. I think that anybody, I agree that I think you can make an argument that everyone is supporting, but that supporting category at the Globes is just such a hodgepodge. I would think they would have a better chance at least going lead. It depends on how shiny the object of a new show like Westworld is to them, because they've got a lot of new things to choose from this year, and some very good very highly regarded new series. So, their habit of rewarding the newest, shiniest, kid on the block, they've got a lot to go with. Certainly, Westworld, I think, would be very attractive to them. But it's by no means the only new one on the block that they're going to be considering. So we shall see.
I think the interesting thing with this is my gut is Tandy Newton's a supporting actress, not a lead actress in this show, and in my head, as we've been talking about other things, have been sort of breaking it down. I'm going, well, I guess Evan Rachel Wood had sort of very episode focused on her character in the pilot. And then from the back of that, she's had some juicy, good storylines and good scenes, and some episodes where she's been more in the background. And actually, Tandy Newton's been pretty similar. She had that second or third episode, which was very focused in on her character, a showcase for her. And then on the back of that, she's had a lot of sort of juicy, sort of interesting, stuff to do off the back of that. Some episodes where she's been more in the background. So I think they've actually been quite equitable in the stuff they've had to do in the series. And I think the reason my gut lent to Tandy Newton being more supporting than Evan Rachel Wood was more just because Evan Rachel Wood's centerpiece episode was the pilot.
Yeah.
That's sort of in my headspace is what makes me think of her as the lead, because my introduction to this series was more from her perspective. So I don't hate the decision. I think that they are both, you could argue them both support, it would not be fraud to have either of them in supporting at this point. I think we'll have to see how the second half of the season goes in terms of Emmy placement and things like that. I think for Danny being a lead contender moving forward, they really at the end of this season did set her up for maybe another very important storyline. It looks like it's not just they thought, well, we gave her episode in 2 or 3. We won't give her much for the rest of the season. It looks like that episode 2 has been a real launching pad into her having a really a lot to do this season, which I guess could justify a lead placement. I'd say the show would be better for Emmys moving forward, having her in supporting and Evan Rachel Wood in lead, though. But we'll see what each of them do with the rest of the season.
I think she's got to get out of the saloon. Because in a way, Evan Rachel Wood is really driving the storyline. She's going out, she's changing, she's involved with William and Logan. They're going to the far, borders of Westworld. Whereas Tandy's character, as interesting as she is stuck in the saloon. And I because of that, I would probably make a better argument for Tandy as supporting, but the Globes are just so funny about those things, the way they're set up. But I would love to see Tandy Newton really grow. She is clearly capable. The character is really capable of doing that. But I just wish she could be involved with other people's storylines more.
I think it really complicates the Globes for Evan Rachel Wood, though, because I thought she was very likely to get nominated, being a good chance to win. I could see with the material that Tandy Newton's been given, her getting nominated over Rachel Wood, or they're both getting nominated together, and how that, I could see really any possible machination. It's definitely making me question my Evan Rachel Wood pick more than I did before this change. But anyway, I think let's talk a bit about the stuff with Evan Rachel Wood's character with Dolores. Riley, what did you think about that storyline and where things are headed with with her character?
Well, I'm very intrigued by the timing of everything, because we get those scenes with Dolores where she's with William and Logan, and then we get the scenes where she's in analysis or programming or whatever it's called. And then those scenes kind of exist outside of time, or do they? Are we seeing one storyline with William taking place in one time, since we have a different version of Lawrence there, and then maybe the stuff with Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris is in another time? And then I also saw this thing, there's a different version of the logo that's in the Anthony Hopkins flashback scene, And then that version of the logo is used in all the Williams scenes and not in the Ed Harris scenes.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, like, I think, like, I was saying this to a friend the other day. I feel like they've left time ambiguous in this series intentionally.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard fans talk about online the possibility that William might be an earlier incarnation of Ed Harris, since Lawrence appears prominently in both of their storylines now.
Yeah, I think that's a valid thought. Tom, what did you think about the Dolores storyline and where that's headed?
I just watching the evolution of the character, that, you know, from when she first fires the gun in the barn, now she's not afraid to just, you know, slaughter a few people, and watching the character go off her loop like that, it creates a sense of what's going to happen next. And as far as storytelling goes, that's what you want. And I found this to be a key episode in terms of sending her in a different direction.
She's not going to be the damsel anymore. She's
Yay!
decided. She's decided not going to play the damsel. Are there people with their iPads like listening in on this, like going, "Boy, this is interesting." Like, this is. I wouldn't have predicted this from the way we programmed it.
I love that.
I wouldn't want to interrupt though. I'd be pretty like excited to like see where it went.
Yeah.
I'd be like, boy, this is a real direction. We haven't seen this before in the Westworld. Let's see what happens here.
Well, they did try to interrupt in the last episode, didn't they? Wasn't there that guy who came over and he asked Dolores to come with him, and then she didn't? So.
Yeah. So I think like it's pretty interesting. I feel like someone's going, "Oh boy, that was a good line, the damsel thing. Who wrote that one for her?" We haven't seen that.
That was a beaut.
Someone's like, "Oh, that writing's really gone up since that British guy left the writers' room." Okay, so we've got so that was good. I thought like it's pretty exciting. It seems like they're now on a train carriage. She saw a witch lady or a fortune teller. She picked a card, and the card had the maze on it. We love the maze. And then it was on the coffin. This maze is just popping up everywhere for daughters now. So this, like, for mine has to be, because I know Riley said time's a bit ambiguous. This has to be after Jeffrey Wright's character said to her, "I want you to go to the maze. Try to solve the maze."
Yeah.
I feel like maybe not guaranteed, but that's what I think. Riley, do you disagree?
I'm not sure. I just think that the William stuff is happening in a different time. I find interesting how much emphasis there is on William too, how he's, you know, kind of the romantic lead and kind of our gateway into this world, since he is from our world. And he's another one like Tandy Newton, who wasn't in the pilot, but has maybe been more prominent since then than maybe Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think like I'm pretty interested. Prince Caspian got left behind this week. I think we're going to see him again. Those robots really get stuck into him.
Yes.
Like, they're like, does that hurt when the robots are punching? Like, because I know they can't kill you, but like.
But it's always delightful to see him get the crap beaten out of him.
Oh yeah, it's great. like, we can't kill you, but we can get awfully close. Like,
yeah. And I'm there in the front of my set going, harder.
yeah. So that's pretty funny. And yeah, I think it's fun. We're gonna see him return, I think, at some point and meet up with our guys again, I'm sure. And he'll have a story or two to tell about. So that's pretty good. And yeah, they're on a train now. Like, they're on a train heading. This is massive Westworld. It's huge. So they're on a train heading somewhere. Like, it seems like they're heading a bit more out of the like world, but maybe that's where you need to go to get to the center of the maze. Maybe that's like sort of an irony that the further from the center you get, the closer you get to the center of the maze.
As I recall, though, they did say that the farther away from town that you get, the more intense the experience.
Yeah.
i.e. the orgy.
Yes.
Are we not going to mention the orgy in this?
We can mention the orgy. I had a spoiler on my Facebook feed or something. Someone had posted to an article saying Westworld. Oh no, maybe it was a Google News. It was recommended for me, which realized I was about my Google history. But it said Westworld episode 5, season 1. The most boring orgy scene in the world, or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, what's sorry, Tom?"
I'd be very afraid if Google recommended orgy scenes for me. I'm thinking, where am I going? What sites have I visited that they would?
I do think it might be the amount of Westworld articles I read. I hope that's
okay.
That's my defense, is that it was a Westworld heavy title as well, and I do Westworld web shows and things.
Yeah.
But
nice try.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that was pretty funny. So I was anticipating a very boring orgy scene from that headline. To be fair, I think it was boring, but I think it wasn't particularly an orgy scene. It was more an orgy happening around a different scene.
Yeah. I mean,
Riley, anything you want to add?
Well, I had read before that Westworld was requiring its extras to be okay with genital touching. That's a headline I saw a few months back, and then I saw a follow-up article about how they're not legally allowed to enforce that. So I wonder if that was for this scene, or if we'll get even more orgies in future episodes.
I feel like the orgy was somewhat unnecessary though. I feel like I think a lot I get when you get further out, it gets crazier, so they need to show crazier sort of stuff. But it didn't really propel the storyline that much, and it was quite I don't know if prolonged's the right way. It just seemed unnecessary to me.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to show how different the farther out you go in the park, the experience might be. It's kind of the same kind of boring orgy as Eyes Wide Shut and other orgy scenes. It did have shades of Eyes Wide Shut, this episode. Yeah. Well, I've got.
How far away are they really? If their Westworld pass, is only good until tomorrow or something. Is there enough time for them to get back from that place? I wonder, does the park step in and say, you owe us more money, or what happens?
Yeah, because theme parks will generally close the rides furthest from the exits first. And they'll gradually start to move the people back in by closing those lines to the rides. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Do you reckon do you have a chance, if you've signed up for 3 days in Westworld and you're just loving that third day, can you in the park extend your trip a bit? Is there an app you can open up and
maybe you just start talking, since they're always filming you.
Yeah, just look up and go, I'll have an extra 2 days. Just take it out of my account. You got my details. Yeah.
Or they could just say, get your clothes on and go home.
Yeah. Maybe they've got, maybe it's just, you stay as long as you want, and they just, take the $40,000 out of your account every day till you get back. That would be the best model. That's how most, gym memberships work. We'll keep taking the money out until you usually with gym membership you need to have 10 meetings to get out of it though. You need 10 anyway. So I've got a treat for us today, something exciting. I'll get it out because we've got a copy of The Maze.
Oh,
to try. Yeah, we've got the Maze. To try to help Dolores and stuff out, get to the center. And I feel like it's, I was looking at this, it's not too tricky. Depends what part of the center you're trying to get to. Because if you just if this is the center, it's just like that. So that's, or if you can go just through there and then you get to the center. But I think it's impossible to get to these two bits.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get inside this rectangle, which is the very center. It's impossible. It's a rectangle. There's no entry points. So, I don't know. Any thoughts on the maze, guys? Because I love mazes as a kid, which I think I've said on the show before. This one, I feel like, is either too easy or impossible. The two worst type of mazes.
I did not see this coming. This was a real treat.
Yes, I did not. This was not in the production meeting.
I
wonder what happens when they get to the maze. Like, is it a corn maze? Is it?
I don't know. That would be good.
Is it hedges? I don't know.
Yeah. So
I never thought this would be a props chat.
No. Well. You always got to have a few props.
Well, that's true.
When you're 25 minutes into a Westworld chat, people need a few visuals. But anyway,
I upgraded. Before I had a child. Now I've got.
You've got it. You've got a good hat.
That's a good hat, Riley. I mean, the other one was kind of straw and going off in all these directions.
Right, Riley. The next chat Riley said he's going to have a 10-gallon one, and they're just going to get bigger and bigger. His hats. They're just going to it's just going to be a hat. Like, it's going to be the season final. Anyway, so, let's quickly talk about the Tanner Newton storyline and what's going on there. That was pretty exciting. This is not a great performance for Tanner Newton. Like, it's more your Emma Rachel Wood, Ed Harris, Anthony Hopkins having your juicy scenes. But, boy, she had the big twist at the end of the episode. The guy finally made that little bird fly around. Great. And she woke up and said, "Hey, let's have a chat." And she just seems so in control. Like it's not. What does this mean? Like, Tom,
is the bird a metaphor for her struggle to try and get some self-realization and fly on her own? I don't know. It is interesting that she. As in control as she is in the saloon, it seems that here she's in control, but off of her loop. That she's saying, "Let's have a chat," is not something that she's programmed to do. So I'm going to be fascinated to see where this is going to go.
Yeah, Riley.
Yeah, the last we saw of her, she was pulling that bullet out of her, right? And then this episode, she was just on the table, and she wakes up at the end. So I think we're kind of missing the middle there, where she became fully aware of what's going on.
Yeah, we see the guys operating on her earlier in the episode, and they're sort of going like, looks like they were trying to get to something with that stab. Like, it looks like, it doesn't look like he just stabbed her to kill her. But anyway, moving on. It is really interesting. A lot of the lab guys seem like clowns. I don't know. I don't know what the right word is. Like, they seem like the idiot characters of the show, people that work in the lab.
Well, I think Felix, the one with the bird, I actually kind of saw a parallel between William and Logan there, because one of the lab guys is just a jerk, just like Logan is, and this other guy's a little more sensitive and trying to bring the bird back, and for whatever reason. But it is funny that they're still introducing characters by episode 5. The cast list in this is enormous.
It is Game of Thrones. Sorry, go right.
Oh, and we finally have an Asian character too, which I thought was so strange that this is like the least Asian cast on television. When co-creator Lisa Joy, she's Chinese, and then one of the other 9 writers, one of them is also Chinese, and then you've got J.J. Abrams, Brian Burke, executive producing. And 12 years ago, when they did Lost, they had 3 Asians in their initial cast of 13. So we have got 16 series regulars on this show, who are none of them are Asian, and then maybe out of the next 16 recurring characters, we have 1 now. Yeah,
we're getting there. So that's I don't know what's going to happen with this Tanner Newton thing, but I'm interested. I'm very interested to see where this goes and how that fits in with the timeline of everything. I think that that's sort of where we're starting with her and her character make some connections with the timeline, which I don't think we're getting with the Dolores scenes when she's with Anthony Hopkins or when she's with Jeffrey Wright. It's very hard to tell when those things are happening. But the Tanner Newton, at least, we see them operating. Okay, she took this bullet out, and you go, okay, well, this is after that scene and probably before. Yeah, so we're starting to get a bit of an idea with her character, and she might be the one that links that timeline for us. What any last thoughts on this episode of Westworld, Riley?
Sorry, kind of unrelated to the episode. I watched the Westworld movie recently, so that was fun. I think, Tom, you said you had seen it. Matt, have you seen it?
I've not seen the Westworld movie.
Yeah, the Westworld movie.
So no spoilers, Riley.
Half the time they refer to it as Western World, which is kind of fun. But in the movie, they take a very long time to kind of explain everything that happens in the park, which is something that you don't get in the TV show. In the TV show, we have a lot of questions about logistics. It's almost as if they assume that you've already seen the movie. But at the same time, the TV show also goes, I think, a step further, where it doesn't necessarily want you to look too closely, because they kind of just say that, like, the technology is from the future. Whereas in the 1973 movie, it'll actually show them carrying out all the various processes physically.
I feel like part of that speaks to, and you can talk about this as a writer, Tom, maybe, 1972 compared to 2016, where I feel like in the that time people think, oh my gosh, what a confusing concept. People must we need to make sure we explain this well, or people are going to be confused. Where in 2016, writers are going a bit more, we don't need to explain this. It's better if people are confused. That adds mystery, and it really should be from watching all 50 episodes of our show that people understand what it's about, not through the audience doesn't owe us explaining everything to them in the pilot episode. It's actually better for them to find out over time, and I think thinking more highly of their viewers too, of this is something that we don't need to explain everything of right now. Let's let it play out. Let's not just overuse too much exposition. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, the thing is, you can do that with a series.
Yes.
With the movie, not only did they have Westworld, but there were other worlds as well. There's a medieval world, and so it wasn't just our main characters were in the Old West, but there were other worlds. And here, this is just so totally focused on the Western theme that it does give you a little bit more leeway in terms of building mysteries in it. So it's much more of a mystery piece of craft than the movie, which was kind of a goof. And it's a lot of fun, but you have to wrap up a story in 2 hours. And so you can't have that much mystery in it. But it is, I'm interested. I haven't gone back to see it. It would be kind of interesting to go back like that and just kind of take a look and see James Brolin and Richard Benjamin goof around in that town.
Maybe in the off season we can do a chat on the movie. That might be fun.
That'd be fun.
It could be a fun thing to do. I'm keen to, after this season, sit down and watch the movie. That's what my plan is.
Good.
In the movie, they actually show the layout of the park, so you know how big it is. And then there are scenes where they come across a sign that says "You're leaving Western World." You're like, oh, okay, so I guess that's where the limit is. What I found interesting about the movie, though, is that people always say that movies are better back in the old days, and whereas the HBO series is so sophisticated in its themes and how it takes the perspective of the robots. And then obviously production values and all of that. I mean, the movie itself was a pioneer for being the first to use digital imaging processing, apparently. But it just seems so kind of juvenile. I mean, people get hit in the head and they actually play a cuckoo sound effect. Whereas, in a TV show, everything is so dark.
Yeah, that's funny. It's good. Tom, any last thoughts on the episode?
I kind of wanted to go back to a bit of seeding that was done in the last episode, in that really well-written luncheon scene at the hotel between Dr. Ford and Teresa. And Teresa thinks she's in control, and the board is going to do this and going to do that. And Dr. Ford, Anthony Hopkins, just flips it just to show that he's in control. But they did drop an interesting thing. They're saying that there is a representative from the board who is already in the park. taking a look at what is going on here.
Yeah.
And, we have had a few hints. Logan mentioned that his company is investing in Westworld, although I think that's probably too easy an answer. Or if indeed that Dr. Ford and the Man in Black have had a business relationship before, perhaps he's the member of the board who's kind of wandering around, and that's why they're leaving him alone. I'm just kind of intrigued by that little. They didn't do very much in this episode to really grow that or make it very much clearer, but that's one thing I'm going to keep on my radar for a while.
Yeah, we've really only got 3 suspects, don't we? Like, have we met anyone else that's a guest to the park other than those 3?
Not really.
Oh, we've met very
Come
few.
and go, very fleetingly, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, like we've seen other people like in the bar or something, but like we haven't. Yeah. Like, I think like what this episode's taught me is you really want to get out of the park in Westworld. Like this adventure, like where you're chasing down trains and jumping on them and stuff, like that's the kind of thing I'd be into on Westworld. It's when they were chasing after that train, I was thinking, this would be a fun thing to do.
Well, like, now, Matt, would you be a black hat or a white hat?
I think I'd want to try to be the hero. I think that'd be fun to try to be the hero of the Western. I think that'd be cool. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you be, Tom?
I like this hat too much. I wouldn't want to give it up.
Yeah, I think I'd be the hero, but I'd probably wear a black hat. I think I look better in black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Riley, would you be a black hat or a white hat?
Well, you gotta go with the black hat, because the white hat would just get all that dust, and it would just end up black anyway, right?
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good metaphor too, like of like sort of try to be a white hat, just ends up black anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. So no, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think like it's sort of like the same thing. Like if you go to Disneyland and if you spend like all your time on the main street, like and all the shops there and stuff like that, you don't actually end up going on any of the rides. So I think like you got to get out, you got to get on, you got to be. Here's my tip: anyone going to Westworld, find a train to chase down.
Yeah, because it feels more dangerous out there, and it would just give you a better thrill. Get your $40,000 worth.
Yeah, it's $40,000. Like you better be like making the most of each day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, who knows what inflation's like back then and how much $40,000 is. Oh, it's so much fun.
In the movie. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's 1,000 in the movie. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you gotta pay more for those 2016 special effects and graphic design budgets. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching this week's Westworld chat. It was a lot of fun. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 6. We are at we've cleared the halfway point of Westworld season 1 now. Thanks, Riley and Tom.
See you next week.